Less than a day till the fated rerun of the final Amphorius patch. With how brutal it is, especially the first half, I'm sure a lot of you people are wondering on who you should summon. And so today I'm here to help with that as your friendly neighborhood Star Rail player. In this video I'm going to be talking about every one of the 3 characters that are rerunning, so Hyacine, Castorice, and Tribbie. I'll be talking about their places in the meta, how strong they're holding up, and what I do see for the foreseeable future, especially as we are closing up on the 3.x patches and going closer to a 4.x era, where there is going to be even more characters.
Click on my link in the description right now to join me for a journey in Raid Shadow Legends. It supports my channel a lot and gives you a legendary start in the game with Elenaro, as well as 3 awesome epic champs. Don't waste any time and click on the link right away. I appreciate you guys.
So first, let's kick it off in order. So we're going to start with Hyacine. So Hyacine was released as a sustain mainly to function with Castorice, but she kind of ended up destroying every expectation for a sustain. She literally did everything for you. She sustained your team well, did damage, did your taxes, paid your home. They kind of just overloaded her with a bunch of things that she honestly could do without, and really ended up raising the bar for sustains. And so, very quickly, people realized that she wasn't only for the Castorice team, but she actually ended up being a good general sustain that can really go everywhere in every mode. The max HP buff wasn't wasted on non-HP scalers, so if you ran her on an attack team, it wasn't wasted just because having more max HP would mean you are able to survive for longer. So if you got toggled onto a character like your DPS who may have lower HP because they scale off attack, so obviously you don't have HP rolls, because of the max HP increase, you can take more hits than you normally would, and then Hyacine, having insane healing output at the same time, could heal it all back. And then for actual HP scalers, minus My Day, because he didn't really end up having her on the best team until the Siren setup, the max HP buff was insane for their damage, the sustainability was insane for their damage, the light cone was insane for practically every HP scaler we have right now. For Castorice, it gives her an insane amount of new build generation. For Evernight, it gives her Memorial stacks, and then for Blade, it gave him a charge. And for Jinglu, it can give her some stacks as well. So she really just ended up being this end-all be-all sustain that's good anywhere on any team, as long as you could have her all up and have enough skill points for her to actually use them. So she is on the best team, or at least one of the best teams in the game, being Castorice, and can be good on any team you really want, again. You can even use her on the Akron team because her actual light cone has a debuff to give her some stacks. That's how broken she is. And so you took a healer that, once again, could heal your team really well so you didn't really die, gave you more max HP, which increased max HP scalers damage, and also increased survivability for everyone else, including the HP scalers, had a great light cone to make enemies take more damage, worked on really every single team, tutored you so you could pass school. You really just had a sustain that just did everything, and she, to this day, is still in that slot. She is the best sustain in the game. The only one that can kind of contest her in some slots is Danheng. The new Danheng, Permanent Terra, Dante, Peter, whatever the hell you want to call him. He is the only one that can really sustain that slot. Haha, get it? So because of that, she still has really good value. Not even for people who don't have Castorice, like, oh, I don't have Castorice, so she's not going to really have much need on my team. Even for people like that, she is that good. And I'm speaking to you as someone who skipped her original banner despite knowing how good she is. That character is genuinely not okay, and I'm genuinely scared for the future selection of sustains. Especially with how we got her and then Danheng and how good Danheng is, I'm really scared to see what the next one's gonna do. So her role of when she came out, she's just this broken sustain, and to this day, she still is the best sustain. For Castorice teams especially, where she is the most insane jump that you'll see in any other team, but even outside of those teams, she is just downright broken. Now next up is Castorice. So Castorice was like the most chilled character in the entire 3.x update, whether you like it or not. This girl has more buffs coming to her than I have villains chasing me right now. For every one green goblin, she gets like 50 different teammates. And so since release, she is really held up to be one of, if not the best DPS in the game. At start, she was really strong with the whole recycling playstyle. She wasn't like the most like broken thing we've ever gotten, because obviously that would go to Akron when she released. And at times she could definitely feel clunky to play because she was released a patch before Hyacine came out. And nowadays using Castorice without Hyacine is very much doable still. She's still insanely good on those teams, but how it feels in terms of non-clunkiness or clunkiness is just insane. Having Hyacine or not having Hyacine is the biggest difference ever. So she released insanely strong, and she just constantly got better and better and better. Tribbie already released, which is one of her best teammates, and then there was like the whole problem of Tribbie being everywhere. Then she released obviously the patch after that, then we got Hyacine, and then in 3.4 it was Final, so we ignored that. 3.5 was Evernight, so that's another buff to her team. Not to mention the light cones and such, and then their specific Eidolons that indirectly buff Castorice as well. And now we're finally getting Cyrene, who was another buff to the Castorice team. You could really make a movie called Castorice Far From Tier 0 if you really wanted. So Castorice has really just remained this very, very strong DPS with great damage, great covered ability with how much she can perform in every single mode. And this includes the new Anomaly mode as a DPS. Functions great across all of them ever since she did release. Is able to do full AoE, blast, and single target, especially because she has the bounce when you blow up the dragon and it goes rah! So having a really strong kit, having constant teammates and the teammates' dupes and light cones to constantly make that unit stronger, already being able to cover through every single game mode, and having coverage throughout every amount of enemies throughout the field, she remained to be one of the best DPSs in the game, if not the best, and just constantly kept solidifying that spot with every new buff she got. Because you have the base characters, again, Hyacine, Evernight, Cyrene, Tribbie, and then you have their dupes, especially something like Evernight E1, which increases the damage that she can deal against one enemy. Tribbie E1, which is universally broken, and obviously indirectly supports her. Hyacine E1, which makes everyone have a bunch more max HP, which significantly impacts her damage. Hyacine Light Cone makes enemies take more damage, and also drains HP so you can generate more new blood for even more dragons. And now Cyrene, who has great buffs, only really works like the best on Remembrance teams unless you have E2, and then also can help single target scenarios, especially because of the overcapped new blood points to make her dragon do even more damage when you blow it up. There is no stopping her. The only way to stop her is 4.x ends up just having a new character that just functions better than her. Which probably will happen knowing this game, ha 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 ha. But regardless, Castorice then and now is still one of, if not the best DPS in the goddamn game. Next up is Tribbie. You can probably imagine how this is going to go. She really is just still broken as hell. She was and probably still is the best slot-in character in the game. And that's even at just E0 S0, because at E0 S0 you can just give her S5 DDD and she's just an insanely good character to hold that actual light gun. Because of how many times you can ult, how many times you can get it depending on the team. And because of that you can get constant action forwards, which can help you hit significantly higher breakpoints. And then if you had a signature that let her do a lot more damage and also gave your team 48% crit damage on top of the fact of her doing additional damage in her zone, making enemies take more damage and giving everyone all type res pen. You know how broken that is. So there really wasn't a single unit that didn't use her. The only teams that didn't use her were two relatively obscure teams at the time. Break, which is usable, but we already know the problem with that team. And then Dot, which still doesn't use her anymore. At the time, Dot was still obsolete, but now it is a lot better with Hyacines and Kafka buff. But those are still the only two teams that don't use them, and that's just because they had a set team already. The crazy thing is, you still can use her on those teams. The buffs and debuffs she has is that good. The only universal buff she doesn't have is her Light Cone's crit damage buff, which if you don't have her Light Cone, then every buff she has is universal. And then don't even get me started on that broken E1, giving her true damage for everyone on the team, which is just going to always be broken because it ignores all res and all defense. The more damage you deal as a unit, the more damage the true damage does. So if you're someone who deals max 200k, first off, what the hell are you doing? The true damage isn't going to do much for you, but if you're someone who constantly deals millions, the true damage is going to add a bunch of 100ks on top of that. They really just gave this unit everything, so like every team you see, sustain the setups, non-sustain the setups, like she could really just go on every single team. Every DPS that was released after 3.x started really just has her on that team. DPSs before 3.x all received a big buff because of Tribbie just being a character. That little girl with the bomb is what my nightmares are telling me I'm going to fight the next day. Her buffs to this day are still insanely good. All-type Rest Pen is just such a broken buff, because usually they're always locked behind support Eidolons, and probably going forward they still will be. Tribbie's really the only one that gives it to everyone for free like that. Only other case is really just Ceredra, and that's when her actual buff activates, and we know how niche she can be. Tribbie goes everywhere, because she gives everyone all-type Rest Pen no matter what. So at her release, she was just insane. Now everyone figuring out everything, and now really seeing her potential, she still just goes everywhere. The only time she gets kicked off of a team when she is on the team is going to be the release of Cyrene on Remembrance teams. And even then, it's not the biggest of a jump. Like, it's not like, oh my god, Tribbie's throwing on that team. She's still really broken on the team. Again, especially if you have E1. Now for the should use summons, going one by one. Starting it with the pink girl with a unicorn that can probably devour my entire city. There's really not a reason to not summon for her. She's really a character that you can really never go wrong with. It kind of just depends on if you're in need of a sustain or not, and that's really the only reason. Because you can run her as a DPS and she will cook, but of course, the thing you want to consider about her is sustain-wise. If you're someone who still does need a sustain, pick up Hyacine, trust me. Let's say in 4.x they do release a sustain that is better than her. That doesn't mean she's not going to be usable, because let's say her buffs become obsolete and her damage becomes obsolete. She still heals a lot, and her max HP buff is really good. She's not going to become useless just because the sustain ends up being better. Danheng is better in some teams. That doesn't mean Hyacine's bad, does it? So if you're in need of a sustain that is, a direct upgrade to whatever team you are running, which usually will always be, then you should definitely consider her. She is the best option you can really think of when it comes to summonable wise. Especially because she's really good at E0 S0. Her light cone's fantastic, but you don't need it. So if you're someone that has a sustain, let's say maybe you're set with Danheng on one side and your other side is, I don't know, Lynx. Pick up Hyacine, trust me, it's going to do you a lot. The times you'd skip would just be the opposite reasons. Pretty much if you already have your sustain set, let's say you run Danheng on one side with your Finon, and then on the other side you run a follow-up team still with the Venturin, you are pretty set for that case. Or maybe you run Aglia and you still have Fofo, you're still fine. It's really just if you are set sustain-wise, then you don't really need her. Another thing you can consider is if you're a Castorice player specifically. Let's say you're able to clear, but you want your Castorice to last as long as possible. And I'm going to throw in Evernight anyways. Whether you're running them on a team or separate, if you want them to last as long as possible, and maybe you're getting to the point where you might struggle with them, or maybe you don't struggle now, but again, you want them to last as long as possible, pick up Hyacine. I don't look like I'd be someone that lies, right? Yeah, in my humble opinion, if you are in those cases, I'd pull, and then for the opposite reasons, you would skip. Castorice, on the other hand, for her, if you're in need of a DPS that's strong, she is going to be one of the best options you can pick up. And that's really it. If you're in need of a DPS and you want to have good quantum coverage or just a good unit that's strong in general, that works in every single mode, she is going to be a good pickup. This is going to be a lot faster because DPS wise, it's really easy. If you're in need of a DPS, yes. If you're not, then no. So in the next case, if you already have enough DPSs that your teams are covered on every mode, then you don't really need to. Or if you're someone that's scared of Remembrance potentially falling off because we're going into a new actual point X patch, where Remembrance characters are no longer going to be the focus and you're afraid they might fall off, that's a valid concern and you should consider it. So again, if you do need a DPS, then yes, definitely consider Castorice, otherwise you can go ahead and skip. And finally, for Tribbie. Tribbie is one of the only characters that I think everyone should honestly pick up. Because sure, maybe another character soon will be released in the 4.x meta where he could potentially replace Tribbie. Tribbie is just so goddamn strong with everything she does. The sub DPS potential, all the buff/debuff she has, and then the insanely good vertical investment that can really just stop early on with E1. She's just going to benefit every account. There's no account that really won't benefit from her unless you only play Break and Dot. If you're doing that, first off, second off, you probably still could benefit from them one way or another because Dot and Break won't work in every single time. But yeah, pretty much Tribbie is just a character I recommend everyone to pick up because maybe you're going to need a slot filler for a team and she is just going to be so good for that, again, outside of Break and Dot. So if you're really in need of any form of support to make your DPS do more damage, she is someone I just recommend picking up. Only time I'd skip is if you are someone that is, one, again, either afraid that she's going to get replaced, but she's just so strong, so even if she gets replaced, she's still going to be fine. And then two, if you're only a Break or Dot user. And again, if you are only using those two teams, so if you fall under those, then yeah, you can skip, I guess. And that is it for the should you summon on the 3 reruns for the first half, taking over reasons on why they're strong and what their current place is in the meta, and then reasons why you should or should not summon for them. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other types of Star Wars content. Check the description to check out my Arctis channel, join the Discord, and also try out Raid if you want to. Again, clicking the link would help out the channel, and I very much appreciate it if you do. Anyway, the city needs me, so I'll see you later.